Hello, I'm Fred Nelson from Craven Tenor Guitars. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today is an exciting day for me because I finally get to unveil model 1939, the Mallory Chipman Anemoia, the most unique and distinguished tenor guitar I think you've possibly ever seen. Before I unveil and really share with you all its incredible features, I want to go back and share with you some of the research that went into the development of the guitar. You see, the Craven Tenor Guitars, long before I open up my AutoCAD and start designing the shape and concepts of the guitar, I always start with the research. And needless to say, every binder of every Craven Tenor guitar varies in thickness, and some of them get very, very thick. Now, in the case of the Anemoia, there are about 3 years of research that's gone into it long before it went to the production stage. Okay. What I like to do when I do my research is I try to look at specific types of woods that are used in guitars. I look for the finishes that are used on guitars, things that people cherish about their guitar, things that people don't like. I try to discern information that I see in regards to every particular model of guitar that I'm researching and find what people say about them. Not only, things like, I really like it, which is a pretty generalized term, but something more, I look for something like, I've owned this guitar for the last 15 years and I really like something about it. And the same when somebody says, well, you can't do that, I don't like that. I kind of brush that off because unless a person owns a guitar in a specific style and has experience with it, they're just kind of talking and making noise. Okay, so in other words, they're being trolls. Okay, so let's get beyond that and let's start talking more deeply about the aspects of the Anemoia. There are a lot of guitars that influenced the Anemoia. I look back at one of the things I liked is the Gibson 140T size guitar. It's smaller than the standard robust archtop guitar. The drawback to it was its thickness of body, so it doesn't have a good voice. It's not a loud guitar. It definitely has to be played electrified if you want to hear anything out of it. When you play it acoustically, it's very shallow, but it's still a Gibson and it's still a beautiful little guitar. So I really like the shape. I like the size. Then I started looking at the 1935 Martin F7 archtop. Now that guitar is a full-size archtop, but the body depth is enormous. It's got a huge, big body. What does that do? It gives huge, deep, resonant tones rather than the shallow tones. I really like that. That stuck with me. Then I started looking at the artistic qualities of guitars. And for there, I can't help but think of the 1939 D'Angelico New Yorker. That is a beautiful Art Deco guitar. It is, if you find a used one, you might be paying around $17,000 to $18,000 for them. But they really are the epicenter of beautiful archtop guitars. Then I start looking at pre-war guitars from Europe. And the guitars that really kind of stuck in my mind was the 1930 Schoenbach. It's a beautiful jazz guitar. The 1950s period Frizan archtop guitars. The 1959 Hofner, the 461, I believe is its model number. And during the Cold War period, there was the Kirla. And those all had one distinct feature about them that we really didn't see in North American guitars, and that is a sound hole located at the bottom of the neck. A very unique feature. Now, in saying all this, those were beautiful looking guitars, but drawback to them is they really weren't a premium quality wood. So, they had the look, they had the dynamics, they had some very unique features, but as far as the integral quality of the wood, it really wasn't there. Then I look at the tail pieces of some of the great jazz guitars, like the Conti, the Benedetto, the Acquisto, the Martin, the Eastman. They all have ebony tail pieces over a steel or metal tailpiece. Why? Because that tailpiece adds to the overall sound of the guitar. So a lot of that is what got laid away in my notebooks and became a part of the formula that became the Anemoia. So let me take a quick minute to actually just talk about the name itself. A lot of people have asked, what is Anemoia? It's such a weird word. I've never heard of that before. We all experience nostalgia. We can go back and go, I can remember when I was a kid, my mom and dad got in this old station wagon and we went from Victoria, British Columbia, all the way down to Florida. I rode in the back seat. I got sick all the way. That's nostalgia. We think about a time in our life that we remember with passion. We can look at a single item and go, I remember 10-cent ice cream cones. Man, they were just the best. Ice cream just hasn't tasted the same since. But Anemoia is different. Anemoia is the feeling of nostalgia for something that never was, or a period that was beyond our time, that we never experienced, but we have a passion for it. We might go, I'm 60 years old. I would have loved to have grown up in the 1800s, with the top hats and the horse and buggies and that kind of thing. We develop a passion for a period that we never experienced. And that truly is what the gist of the Anemoia is it's a guitar that should have been, that could have been way back in the day, but it never was. So, the official unveiling. All right, so there she is. Let's go over all the unique and distinct features that make the Anemoia what it is. Okay, let's start right up at the top. The headstock, you can have a look there. You can see inlaid abalone. The inlaid abalone is on a bed of ebony. Okay, it's finished in hand inlaid abalone purfling. And let me say something about the abalone that we use in Craven Tenor Guitars. Our abalone is sourced from a food-first abalone farm. What that means is the abalone is commercially grown and harvested for food first. The shell is then used and claimed for other uses. So it is respectfully selected and ethically sourced. Okay, so let's have a closer look again. We've got the abalone going on top there, on the sides. Let's have a close look on the side. And you'll see our binding has, the binding itself is flamed maple, and right around the edge of it is a very fine filament of ebony. On the back, we have Wilkinson high gauge and high gear ratio, I should say, tuners. These tuners are intended to give you precision tuning. Quite often, if you get a low gear ratio tuner, what you'll get is you may be shooting for an E. It may always be sharp, it may always be flat, but you may not be able to truly dial in the key with precision, where with a lock-in, high gear ratio tuner like this, you can dial it in, it stays in place, and it won't go out of tune while you're playing. Okay, let's move on to, as I mentioned, the filament that we use. We also, with the flame maple binding that we use on the headstock, the body, the neck, it's all hand peeled, which means it doesn't come in a pre-made roll from a factory. Our luthier precision peels the wood to create our own bindings. So we have a Canadian hard maple, flame maple neck. And the taper on the neck is our standard Craven 38 millimeter down to a 42 millimeter tapered neck. That size is ideal for somebody who really likes to have room on a fingerboard for, say, finger picking, for chording. If you're an individual with aged hands, you know that it's much easier to expand your hand than to shrink it up. So when you look at the original tenor guitars that had 30 or 33 millimeter necks, your fingers are compressed. And after a few hours of playing, not even that, sometimes just after a few minutes of playing, people start to complain about the ache. Where if you're able to expand your hand, it's a much more natural, comfortable position for your hand to be in. If you have large hands, if you have large fingers, you'll really, truly appreciate the larger width of the neck itself. Okay, the next, the fingerboard is rosewood with, again, hand-carved abalone inlay. The binding is, again, flamed maple with markers for each and every fret marker. And you'll find that we have, again, the ebony inlay, filament inlay, following every one of the joints throughout the entire guitar itself to accentuate rather than hide the uniqueness of each and every joint. The neck itself is a 22 fret neck, so you've got lots of room to go up and down that neck and play. Now, let's have a look at the body itself. The body is, on top, we have hand-carved Sitka spruce. It's not a pressed body archtop guitar. We can look back at the TG50 from Gibson, the Big Jake from Craven Tenor Guitars, the John Lawler. Those guitars are all pressed archtops. There's nothing wrong with them. That was just the way they were manufactured. Premium quality jazz guitars of the period and today are all hand-carved. The difference is found not in the look, but in the sound. The tonal qualities of hand-carved archtops are phenomenal. There truly is no comparison. You've got to put them side by side. Then you can hear the difference. Okay, on top, solid Sitka spruce. On the sides and the back, flamed maple. Again, solid flamed maple, not laminate. On the back, we have more abalone inlaid for a nice finish on the back, and you can see that flame maple is matched and is truly a beautiful golden color. This is called a Klondike Gold. It's a formula, an in-house formula of Craven Tenor Guitars. Throughout all the sides, and again, as I say, every joint you'll find has got the fine ebony filament to really accentuate the contours of the guitar. Now let's have a look at the ebony components of the Mallory Chipman Anemoia. As I mentioned up top, the headstock, the ornate concepts of it are done in ebony with the abalone inlay. We look down, next components that are ebony is the ebony pickguard, a combination rosewood and ebony bridge, and our tailpiece is also hand-carved and hand-shaped ebony. It's grounded, so it can be played electrically. Now, one of the unique features that I incorporated into the Anemoia right from the start is the ability for you to play it either acoustically or electrically. If you're a guitar player who prefers a strictly acoustic archtop guitar, you can remove 2 screws that are in the back of the pickguard. The pickguard comes off, and there's a small mini jack inside that you pop that out, and the only thing that's left inside the guitar is the wiring for the plug-in. But you can see our controls, our volume controls and tone controls, are thumb wheels that are mounted underneath the pickguard, and that way we've got a beautiful guitar that is not embellished with dials and controls and that kind of thing. It's clean. Now we have also mounted the floating humbucker on the pickguard, so when you pull it off, it goes away as well. It's not permanently attached. It's a very, very easy process to put on and take off. The nice thing is, say you're going to a jam somewhere one evening and you want to go electric, hit it in with your electronics attached already. For some reason, if you want to go on the fly and go acoustic instead, you can either play it acoustic as is, or you can remove that to really get the dynamic sound coming out of that neck hole. I will tell you, a neck hole makes an incredible difference in the overall sound of an archtop guitar. You can see that we don't use an F hole, that we use something that's stylized like an S as in Sam. There is no law, there is no rule that you have to use a Gibson style F hole. We chose for the Anemoia for her to be a completely unique guitar, and in doing so, we tried to draw on the manouche, they used to call it gypsy style interpretations that were found in guitars in the 1920s and 30s. That way, it truly makes the guitar unique. The position of the bridge, some people like to get into the big argument of there is a sweet spot in a guitar and that bridge always has to be in a certain spot of that bridge, of that sweet spot. You know something? That's debatable. And in particular, in this case, you have a couple things to consider to add to that aspect. And that is, you've got the unique shaped S holes. You have a new sound hole adapted, and you also have an incredibly beautiful, deep-bodied guitar, rather than being shallow, being between 2 1/8 and 3 1/4. You've got over 4 inches of depth here, and when you incorporate the back arch and the top arch, you're at 4.5 inches of depth. That sounds like a lot of depth, but remember, we're talking about a smaller size guitar, so it's still an extremely comfortable guitar to play. So we shot for the quality of tone, the artistic qualities of it. We looked to create a guitar that had deeper sound than the guitar of its size and the ease of playing. So that really summarizes what the Mallory Chipman Anemoia is. It truly is unique as the artist it's named for. I'd like you to take some time and listen to some of the music from Mallory Chipman. It certainly played all the time that I was developing the guitar. I found it very inspiring, and what you'll find is, like the Anemoia, it doesn't fit into one particular category, one particular genre. Mallory Chipman is an incredible singer, songwriter, artist who enveloped so many different genres. She's really a fascinating guitar player and an entertainer. I hope you have the opportunity to see her live sometime, and more so, have the chance to see and hear her play the Anemoia. Coming up very, very soon, as in the month of late July and into August, I will have some demonstrations. I'm not even going to share the tone of the guitar with you myself. I'm going to leave that for Mallory Chipman to share with you. So, on behalf of Craven Tenor Guitars, I want to thank you for joining me today. I wish you a very wonderful day, wonderful time with family and friends while you have them. Thanks very much.